It is the 7th of January. Today marks the start of the process of recording Pino's progress. Hopefully. Hello, baby. Pino is such a nice horse. So we're gonna hope, fingers crossed, that we're gonna find what this is and we're gonna pull through and fix it all. And he's gonna be a little eventer, or if not, a little dressage horse. That being said, he's solid 17 hands and absolutely dwarfs me. I hope I can help him. He's such a good horse. I just want to fix him, because there's not every day you find a gorgeous big thoroughbred with a temperament like this. It's very rare, I think. A big 17 hand, dark brown, gorgeous, sooky, as you can see, trainable, nice moving, even with whatever's wrong with him. It's not every day you find that. Jerry's getting jealous. Look at this. Are you jealous? I don't know if this video is ever gonna fully go up. It depends on if we can fix this little big boy. And I really, really hope we can. This is the 4th time attempting to film this video. Here we go. God, I've been putting it off. First of all, I'm just going to say that I am not supportive, nor am I unsupportive of the racing industry. I'm just going to give a quick backstory on Pino. Pino is my now 5-year-old off-the-track thoroughbred. He was raced twice as a 2-year-old, and then he was retired from racing as he didn't want to go into the gates. He was then sold to someone who only lunged him, and then he was sold to my trainer. And my trainer had him in the paddock for 8 months to mature and be let down from racing. I brought him back into work after he was raced, and then I and friends that rode my trainer's horses and my trainer rode him a maximum of 10 times before he was then sold to me. I got him vet checked on Friday the 13th of October in 2017. I bought him after that, obviously. And he was such a cool horse to ride. I really, really enjoyed that first summer riding him. He learnt things way faster than any horse I had ever known. He was incredibly balanced in every way, especially considering he was only 4 at that time. Kind of wanted to restart him again after his racing career, and I wanted to do young horse dressage with him because I thought that could be something that would be good for him and I thought he could excel at. And then in the future I wanted to do eventing with him, but I found that he had very soft soles from not being fed enough the winter before, so he was very in and out of work those first 6 months that I had him. And then at around the 6 months of owning him mark, I got a chiropractor in because I found there was a recurring thing where he would suddenly buck when you asked him to go forward, and these were really, really big bucks. It was not meanness and it was not excitement. However, I wasn't sure if this was a behavioural thing as well, because it was always when you had just kicked him and you'd been firm because he didn't like going forward, he would buck quite significantly. At least he did probably a maximum of 5 times under saddle, and that was with me, with my friends that rode him and my trainer. and I didn't really think a whole lot of it. I thought it was behavioural. All my horses see chiropractors, so I actually also got him to start seeing Pino, obviously. We found that he was a lot more sore than I expected and what the chiropractor would have expected as well. He was stiff under saddle, but I thought that was more of just a thoroughbred thing, an ex-racehorse thing as well. And so I didn't think it would be significant. However, it was. We just thought it was because he had a roach back that no one had maintained, because horses with roach backs need a little more maintenance than other horses in physios and chiros and everything like that. And so that's what we had thought it was. He actually went on a retreat to my chiropractor's place for a week. He worked on him every single day to help him release his back. And so when he came back into work after that, he was actually very, very sore and could barely canter on the right rein. And so I obviously thought something was wrong. So he went back into the paddock because I thought it might have been a slight paddock injury. And then I brought him back in again later on last year, and he was the exact same. And so I took him to the vet late last year, and they x-rayed his cannons, his hocks and his stifle, because I thought it was either back or hind end related. And he did have some signs that it could have been hind end, like a slight lameness. So we treated that, but there was absolutely no difference under saddle. He still could barely canter because he was really uncomfortable. And so at this time I started looking into the possibility that he had something called kissing spine, which is quite common with thoroughbred horses. Apparently some say up to 35% of thoroughbred horses have kissing spine, or at least thoroughbred types. It can be other breeds obviously, but typically they are similar to thoroughbreds, or they are thoroughbreds. And kissing spine is basically when the spines start to touch or start going towards touching. It obviously is very uncomfortable for horses. This can be caused by horses being ridden too young, horses that have had a rider that is too big for them, and horses that are not worked correctly, like over the back, like you do in dressage, like you do in essentially all equestrian sports. You're constantly trying to make horses work over the back so they don't get things like kissing spine. So I took him to a local vet who I had heard knew a lot about kissing spines, and so I got there and basically straight away said, I think my horse has kissing spines. So we went up and trotted him up, because if a horse has a hind end lameness or any sort of lameness as well, it can make it a lot harder to treat. And he did have a grade 1 out of 5 hind end lameness as well, which can be caused by kissing spines, but it can also be unrelated. Then we took him down and we x-rayed him, and straight away the first x-ray showed significant changes, severe kissing spines. And other vets had told me he didn't look like a horse that would have kissing spines, which is why I hadn't looked into it a whole lot until then. And so I was kind of like, well, it is. And I looked it up a lot, and I'd read a lot of articles which basically said, you know, it's treatable, it's something that can be managed. And so I was quite positive about it, because I was so sure that it was going to be just a longer journey for us. Like at the start of this video when I filmed that, I thought it was going to be the start of this long journey of getting a surgery and him recovering from the surgery, and then me being able to ride him again and jump him again and event him. But what the vet told me is it's not possible anymore for him to be an event horse or a show jumper and we'll see how he goes with ridden work. And he's only 5 years old. And I know it's selfish to want a horse to perform for me and to want to progress with a horse, but the reason why I love riding so much and love training horses so much is because I love seeing the progression of them being unsure to jump and unsure about specific movements, and then starting to enjoy them and becoming incredibly bold and all that sort of stuff. It's just really upsetting that I'm never gonna have this with Pino now. Because he raced too young. And that's what the vet said. The vet confirmed that it is very rare for a horse to be born with kissing spines. So the fact that Pino was 17 hands and he was 2 and he was big boned and he was raced has meant that he no longer has a career in the sports that he should have been able to have a career in after racing. I think I just hate the most that horses aren't treated as individuals sometimes, because a horse that is 15 hands should be treated differently in training than a horse that is 17 hands. A horse that has this kind of conformation, like a long back or whatever, should be trained slightly differently than a horse with a short back. You know, you help them gain muscle where they need it. And there's just 2 things that I've always said that I don't like about racing, and that is, I think they're raced too young when they're raced at 2, and I think there's just a bit too much wastage, at least in Australia, with racing, because even though there are so many horses that are really great and find lots of homes, it's just, what do you do with all these horses that are like Pino, and because of racing, now they're very unsound and there's not a whole lot you can do. There's 2 reasons why I'm making this. The first is, so if your horse is doing similar things to what Pino was doing, perhaps consider things like kissing spine. The first signs with Pino was he didn't want to go forward, and the other signs were that he would suddenly throw in a buck without any kind of indication beforehand that he was going to. Like, he wasn't particularly excited, he wasn't particularly stirred up or anything. He just would suddenly do a very large buck, which was almost completely unstickable, and those were the first 2 signs of him having anything wrong with him. And I really wish I had considered something like this back then, because perhaps then there was a chance that I could do the cheaper and more successful surgery, which is cutting between the spines, and then the scarring basically makes the spines kind of go further apart. But they're already touching with Pino, and so that's not possible. The only surgery is $5,000 and there's a chance it might not work. There's other options which we will do because I want him to get as far as he possibly can still. But it involves a lot of work, like 20 minutes of lunging every single day for 2 months, which means he can't go unsound. And if he does go unsound, I have to start it all over again. The other reason why I did this video was because I just wish that 2-year-old racing wasn't a thing. And I know that it's a giant industry, and me saying this is not gonna probably change a whole lot, but even if it makes someone consider racing their horse at 3 instead of 2, that's all that matters to me, because the less horses that are started so young, the less chance that they're gonna have something like this happen to them. I'm really lucky that he's still around and I haven't had to put him down, because that is something that sometimes has to happen for kissing spines horses. But I do love riding and competing horses and training horses a lot. And I love eventing and show jumping horses. I love showing their full potential and watching them grow. So it was just difficult to learn this. And it's difficult because I can't buy another horse, because 5 is definitely enough and too much almost for this property as is, and 6 would just be too many. But I was really looking forward to training a horse and producing it up through the levels, and I wanted it to be my own horse, because often people will give you a horse and you'll train it for them and then they'll sell it for like 5 grand more, and it was all your time and effort that went into the horse. And often, at least in Australia, no one pays you for the riding and training of horses often, so that's it. Sorry for this downer video. I felt like I needed to make it because I know a lot of people wouldn't talk about these sort of things, because it's impossible to sell a horse when you've said something like this. And when riders find this out about their horses, they will either just throw them in a paddock and won't say anything about them, or they won't say anything about them. They'll get them to a level where they think they could sell them, and then they sell them. And the next person either then finds out, or they do tell the next person, but they don't tell them the full story about it. And I feel like I don't think I could ever do that, because the thought that he may go on to someone that may not ride him or not do anything with him for 6 months, and then he goes back to having no muscle over his back, and then he will do the same with them as he started doing with me. I don't want him to then somehow find his way to the doggers, because I would never forgive myself for that. So I'm trying with him. He can be my little photo shoot slash hopeful dressage horse slash whatever else. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna leave you guys here, and I will be putting up a much nicer, happier video next week. And also apologies for the kind of clickbaity title. This is the first time I've done a title where I felt like I wanted to do something to help it get clicks, because I want people to see this.